Okay, we're pleased to be joined in the media center now by Jeff Burton. He drives the number 31 Caterpillar Chevrolet. He's currently 8th in points. And Jeff, talk about your outlook for this weekend running the Coca-Cola 600 here on on Sunday.
Well, certainly this has been a race that's been really good for us. We've typically run well in this race. Feel like we've had a good year and strong cars every week, and feel really good about it. It's going to be today's going to be difficult because it's really hot and slippery, and of course we're going to qualify tonight, so the track's going to be a lot different. And then by looking at the weather's going to be a whole lot different on on Sunday, and of course we're going to race in at night too. So it's going to be a real challenge to understand today and Saturday what the car needs to be like for Sunday, but that's pretty typical for this weekend.
All right, if you have a question for Jeff, raise your hand. We'll start right here with Kenny, and then we'll go back to Jeff Hood and then to Marty.
Kenny Bruce with SceneDaily.com. Jeff, go ahead and hit the topic of the day. Racing teammates, is there a protocol for racing a teammate during the race, either early or late, or does it change throughout the race?
Well, I certainly think that you have to be more careful with your teammates than you do with everybody else, although I do believe that you drive everybody the way that you would expect to be driven. And, it's I think it's easier to make a teammate mad than it is somebody else. What Denny did Saturday night was completely expected from the field, but when it's your teammate, it hurts your feelings. And I guess that's the best way to, of course I was at home watching it, which wasn't a good thing, but I think that if the roles were reversed, the same thing would have happened. It's just when it happens with a teammate, you expect more, and so it's easier to get your feelings hurt. But at the end of the day, it's you got to go out and try to win the race for you and your team as well. It's your sponsor and your guys work hard to make your deal work. But you do have to be a little more careful. But I think that teammates get mad at each other more often than your competitors, your competition does, because I think the expectation is that they're going to cut you more slack, and when they don't, it makes you mad. You see it at Daytona and Talladega a lot, and so I think immediately you're wanting more than perhaps you're willing to give.
We'll go with Jeff Hood, Marty Smith, and then over here to Brian.
Jeff Hood of RacingToday.com. Jeff, the 600 has been pretty good to first-time winners over the past decade and a half. With this being the longest and grueling race, why is that?
That's a good question. I do think that we've had some. The longer the race, the more opportunity for different situations to come up. It changes the way things happen. If you race for 2 hours versus 4 hours, more stuff's going to happen in 4 hours. And sometimes that opens the door for first-time winners. Sometimes that change in rhythm, that opportunity for odd things to happen. Like when I got my first win at Texas, it was a kind of a different race. It was a unique racetrack. A lot of people had problems with it. It was a special circumstance that helped us win the race. So I think the extra 100 miles kind of lends itself to that.
We'll go with Marty, Brian, and David Newton.
Marty Smith, ESPN. Jeff, how would you describe the prestige of this event?
It's pretty high. I mean, I think all the drivers have different thoughts of what the big races are, but I do believe that the Coke 600 comes in everybody's conversation. When obviously you hear Daytona, you hear Indy, you hear the Coke 600, and then some people it's Darlington, some people it's a hometown track. So, it just depends on what you are. But what you personally feel. But I think the Coke 600 is a really big race. It's so unique because it is 600 miles, and when you go back and look at who's won this race, it's pretty cool. So I think it's pretty far up there.
We'll go with Brian, David, and then Tom Jensen.
Jeff, Brian Nelson, MRN Radio. From the time that when you started in the sport, when things are really rolling economically and the sport really took off, to now where teams seem to have a little bit of trouble, some do anyway, holding on to sponsors, have you noticed a difference in the way that teams treat their sponsors, drivers and teams? Are they doing more for them these days?
Every organization is different. Some organizations, under all circumstances, treat their sponsors the best way they know how. try to go the extra mile all the time. Other corporations or companies, teams are very businesslike. This is your role, this is our role. Don't cross the line. And I think it really comes from the top down. I think the way the car owner behaves around the sponsors and treats the sponsors, and I think that really determines the tone. But I can't say that the teams are really doing a whole lot more. But it's clear that in times like this, everybody's trying to make sure they're doing the right thing. And maybe it's good for us. It's painful, but maybe in some ways it makes us walk a little taller and makes us look a little harder at the things we are doing. And the sponsors demand that anyway, as they should. But maybe this will make us a little better at it.
Let's go with David, Tom, and Bob.
David Newton, ESPN.com. Jeff, you said if the situation was reversed with Denny and Kyle, that Kyle probably would have done the same thing. Kyle says he would have done the same thing, that he races with respect now. You saw the Kyle back as a rookie where people said he was going to kill somebody if he's driving so crazy. Is there a different Kyle out there now? Is he a driver that drives with more respect nowadays?
Kyle's an aggressive driver, and he runs hard every lap, and as he should. But Kyle really doesn't. In my view, Kyle really has never been a guy that wrecks other people. I mean, honestly, he puts himself in some situations where you're thinking, I don't know if he's going to come out of that. And restarts, he's real aggressive. But I've never felt Kyle was a guy that I looked at and said, that dude takes a lot of people out. There's been a lot of guys that have come in trying to be aggressive that have been more, taking more people out than Kyle ever did, in my opinion. I really like racing with Kyle. We've had some really good knockdown drag out races, and when it's over, typically we're all cool with it, and I really like racing with him. He's very aggressive, but he typically does it in a way that puts himself at harm. Obviously, if you're behind him, he gets in trouble. You're going to get in it with him. But I like racing with Kyle. I really do. I know he's going to be aggressive, and I know he's going to come at me, and but that's I'm good with that.